Kevin Roth here of Rotogrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that Rotogrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on Rotogrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/Discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels, and we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your Rotogrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @Rotogrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord.
Good afternoon, Grinders. Welcome to Grinders Live here on Rotogrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blender HD. You want to follow me on Twitter? Joined by Andre Alford, Drizzy, Justin Carlucci, the Luch. Do I have to call people by their nicknames? I have no idea. It's always weird. And it's opening day. It's opening day for baseball where we finally arrived. We have finally arrived. This will be the first Grinders Live of the year where we're not trying to figure out who the starting lineup of the Oklahoma City Thunder is going to be. So, like, I'm just excited for basketball to be over. We're here at baseball. Andre, are you excited for baseball? Are you still going to play the last 4 days of the NBA season?
No, I'll be betting a lot though, but I'm definitely excited for baseball to get here. It's where I make most of my money, so I'm glad to be back into getting back to the green.
And we got Justin Carlucci. You can regularly hear him on the morning grind. I know, like, the basketball ones are just I applaud you for doing analysis on a 10-game the last day of the NBA season type of slate. But you'll still be doing the weekends stuff for MLB. When you go from late season NBA to MLB, and it's MLB, and we have this slate today on opening day where we got the lineups for the 2 4 o'clock games on the DraftKings slate, the 2:00 game, the 2:20 game on the FanDuel slate, and we don't have the later lineups like the 7:00, 8:00, 9:00 game. And like compared to NBA, I'm like, if I have to switch out a catcher or something like that, no big deal. Because it's not like one of those things where 17 people are out and you got to jam in their replacements. Because baseball, pretty much all the batters kind of get 3 to 5 at bats anyway. So you're not. So to me, this almost feels like, oh, I may have to make a late swap later if I make a lineup for the 4:00 slate. NBA, you're pulling your hair until 11 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah, great change of pace. You gotta love it. You have to love it. Yeah, I'm almost checked out of NBA content. You know, when there's players getting 40 minutes who aren't in the DraftKings database. You know, it pretty much that's it for me, man. But hey, I played a single entry last night. That was probably my last of the season. And I'm thankful we get some baseball and the Masters on the same damn day. Like, I'm recording the morning grind for NBA. I'm like, is anybody even going to listen to this? Like, everything I'm saying isn't going to matter by tip off anyway. Plus, there's a golf tournament and it's MLB opening day. So here we are.
Well, it's a good day for sports.
Yes,
it's
sir.
a good day for you to click that like button, hit that thumbs up button. Give me those thumbs. I don't care if it's an up or a down. I don't think it matters for YouTube, but give me that. I'll see you guys in the live chat. If you're in our Discord, the RG Discord, we are in the live-stream-chat channel, so I can see both. Devin will be pulling out some questions if you have any later, but give me those thumbs ups. And since it's the start of MLB season, we have a discount for you for Rotogrinders Premium. If you want to get MLB single sport package, $10 off your first 2 months. Go click on that link in the description. We got obviously, if you see me on the show, I'm going to be talking about projections, right? Player projections, ownership projections, stack projections, stack smash percentages, Slate IQ, which I'm not just for people that are premium members. I think Slate IQ, there's some technical bug today with Slate IQ. They're working on it. I'm not sure if we'll have Slate IQ today, but it should be fixed by tomorrow. I saw Tuttle mentioning it in our Discord. It's opening day jitters, right? So we're working on stuff. We got Cheese's $1 Million Musings, right? He writes like a 10,000 word article every single day. I read it. Probably the best MLB DFS article in the business. We also got the premium Discord, which is always hopping. We got the MLB channel. If you have the bat for Derek Carty, he has his own channel. I got a channel, Blender's Game Theory. We'll be doing a coaching call tonight. So if you want to join premium and get private coaching from me, we do it via Zoom about once a week. So that's at 8 o'clock tonight. You have to be part of that channel. So just open the Discord, get into Rotogrinders Discord if you're a premium member. Go to the Blender's Game Theory channel. You even set alerts or whatever. We got a lot of stuff here for you premium members, but we also got stuff here for your freebies, your cheapies that haven't subscribed yet. We'll be talking about today's slate. Early in the season, let's just highlight the fact, I think two things that we don't see later in the season, like that we get used to come June, July, and August. It's April 7th and it's cold. Okay. So we got a lot of these places where, it's 59 degrees, 48 degrees. So like the differences between the games and the heat index, if you want to call it, is going to be much more dramatic now than it will be in July. Secondly, is that starting pitchers in the beginning of the season typically need to be worked into, pitching 110 pitches. So we may not see many pitchers go past 5 innings. So think of that when it comes to, spending up on salary for pitchers. Fortunately, on DraftKings today, it's kind of like spend for whoever you want day. It's kind of weird. The FanDuel pricing is actually a little tighter than DraftKings. But Andre, what are the things that we're transitioning into MLB DFS? This first slate, it's a 6-game slate on DraftKings, 7 on FanDuel. We already had that Seattle minute. We didn't get Robbie Ray's $6,300 day on DraftKings. We may end up getting that tomorrow. What are you conditioning yourself to today overall? Like just a broad picture view on today's slate. I know you play on FanDuel a little bit more, but depending on the site.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. Like I'm right now, I would say my main strategy for today would be to try to figure out where the field's going to be at and get ahead of them. And I know like hitting is going to matter, but hitting's going to probably matter, like you said, more than pitching, just because of the weather today. Well, actually, no, pitching start is going to matter more than hitting today because of the weather. More so in a lot of these games, it's predicted to be like really like pretty much like I guess muggy, rainy today. So just trying to figure out a way to navigate through it, find the best low stack to get an advantage on the field and pay up a little bit more for pitching than I would not even that I would like to, but just try to be over owned on some of these upper tier guys and someone that I think could be sneaky today.
Justin, how about you? What are you looking at broad picture view in today's slate?
Yeah. I think there's a couple pitchers that I'm Xing out for one reason or another, like pretty much no brainer. Pitch count, like you said, we're in April here. That's going to be tricky to navigate. Are some of these high price guys going to go deep enough to pay off the salary? And yeah, I think I'm spreading out my exposures more than I typically would. Because I think it'll be a little bit more variant today and a lot of unknown and a lot of crappy weather, as you said. So a lot of interesting factors to kick off the year. It's going to be a good one.
So taking a look at the weather, which is done by our own Kevin Roth, an actual meteorologist, right? A lot of times he's like, you can look at weather.com, but that's not going to tell you the full story, especially when he's trying to make a forecast for the exact stadium. Like the thing is that like a stadium is like what, in maybe a square mile? A lot of the weather reporting you see on your weather apps are for like the entire metropolitan area. Like, oh, is it going to rain in Atlanta? Right. And it's like a 50-mile radius. Well, especially if there's light rain or some showers coming through or a line, like maybe it only clips the top end of the metropolitan area, but it doesn't even hit where the stadium is. And they just play through it. There may be some light rain. And then sometimes it looks like, oh, it's only scattered showers. But like all the heavier stuff is coming through right where the stadium. That's probably going to cause a delay at some point. Well, Kevin Roth has all those models that he shows on Crunch Time. He'll be on after this for premium members. But you could get the basic MLB forecast on Rotogrinders.com, and we have he always has the color coding green, yellow, red as far as like postponement chances. So. Mostly across the board, it's pretty like it's April, it's early April weather. It's cold, windy, a little bit wet, a little bit damp. And a lot of these games, like Milwaukee at Chicago, right? Winds are blowing out at center 15 to 20 mile an hour. So it's like Wrigley wind. Oh my God, stack it up. We also have Kansas City. Winds are blowing strong out to right at 25 miles an hour. And then St. Louis, they're blowing out at 20 miles an hour. But the problem is that in all these three locations, it's also cold as hell, right? And heat affects how the ball carries. So even though the winds are blowing out, it actually may be neutralized by the fact that, when the temperatures are in the high 40s and the low 50s, doesn't matter all that much. So maybe the field is going to overweight the wind effects. And a lot of that is reflected in the projections. So if you sign up for Rotogrinders Premium, you get our Plate IQ projections. Remember, click on that link, get $10 off your first 2 months. Or we also have Derek Carty's The Bat as an add-on if you want to pay for that. He has tons more variables involved in his projections. But to look at pitching,
just lock it in. That's all I can say. Like that's one of the guys he's just too cheap. Like he's probably my favorite pitcher, honestly, on the slate as a whole. I know he was injured a lot last year, but the strikeout upside is still there with him, I think. Kansas City, yes, they have a good amount of decent hitters, but I think Shane Bieber talent just as a strikeout pitcher is just far better than probably what Kansas City has to offer. So I look for him to have a pretty good game here. He should be like I said, just a lock on DK today. To me, there's no other better pitcher. He's just too cheap for the situation.
If I look on the Bat X, Derek Hardy puts in the projected pitch counts of all the pitchers, like the base pitch count, projected pitch count, max pitch count. And like, there's no pitcher over 100 pitches today, but Bieber is at 100. Okay. So like at 8,300, see, I was expecting on DraftKings, like, oh, Bieber will be 11,000. And I'll be like, okay, easy fade because he's going to probably pitch 5 innings and it's not going to be worth it. But DraftKings has priced these guys to reflect kind of that pitch count. So if you tell me that no pitcher is going over 100 pitches today, the differences between an $8,300 Bieber and a $6,700 Patrick Corbin or something pitching 90 pitches is enough that I'd rather Bieber with the Royals. You know, is he going to get 10 strikeouts? Probably not. But I don't think any pitcher on this slate scores more than 30 points. So I don't think I'm not necessarily like, do I have to lock in Bieber? No, but just compared to like guys like Wainwright and Max Fried, JT Brubaker, Tyler Mahle. I mean, we'll talk about another like kind of strikeout pitcher, Yu Darvish, in a second. Bieber's strikeout potential is just so much higher than some of these other pitchers that like I'm with Andre. I'm more likely today, Justin, to play. I'm playing 6 lineups today, so I'm not playing max multi-entry or anything. It's quite likely I may have Bieber in all 6, if not 5 out of 6, and just get different with stacks elsewhere. Is that your approach today?
Yeah, I'm on FanDuel, but if I was playing DraftKings, I would probably mirror exactly that. The price is too good, and all the other factors. I'm just pretty much echoing everything you guys have just said. It's crazy to me because to be honest with you, before the show, I didn't open up DraftKings till before the show because I've been focusing on getting my FanDuel lineups in check, and I couldn't believe Bieber was only 8,300. So he can still find a ton of success throughout the entire order, but the bottom's not that good. I think Bieber will be fine. He's your like cash game pitcher for sure. And you're just gonna have to differentiate elsewhere in tournaments as well. I'm guessing Bieber and Wainwright are gonna be the popular like 2 pitchers that people will most likely pair together. But there's some other options there. We'll get to some of these other talking points, but yeah, I'm in on Bieber as well. And I'm not overthinking this one.
So am I the only one out of the 3 that's playing on DraftKings today instead of FanDuel?
No, I'm playing both. I'm just
okay.
Definitely playing both.
I just want to make sure, just as what if I'm talking, that's for the audience out there, I'm primarily talking about DraftKings, and then Andre is talking about both, and then Justin's talking about FanDuel because the pricing is different. Obviously, a 1-pitcher site versus a 2-pitcher site. Like right. Bieber is going to be massively owned on DraftKings because you have to roster 2 pitchers. So compared to FanDuel, where you could probably, you could roster a Darvish. I'm me with MLB DFS. I'm Mr. Crazy. I'm Mr. Lunatic when it comes to who I stack. Is it nuts, Andre? Is it nuts for me to, especially on DraftKings where you have to play 2 pitchers, for me to, in my 6 lineups, have 0 Darvish and I'm playing Arizona stacks against him?
I mean, just from the history, no, I would say it's not. Because we saw last year where Darvish struggled against this team, especially like I think towards the end of the season. So I don't mind that at all. That's definitely a way to get different. I wouldn't like if you say you're running 6, so like I'll probably put maybe 1 lineup and that'll be like more so of a primary stack and maybe do another lineup with just a secondary stack of it. But that would be all the exposure I would get to it. But I definitely can see a path where Darvish does not pitch well today. It can go either way with him. So I like that call a lot because there's not a lot of people that's going to be on that as far as on the Arizona side. And they do have some good hitters on their side this year.
Right. And also the discrepancy between the weather, like these earlier games, 48 degrees in Kansas City, 52 in St. Louis, Washington, it's 52, 59 in Atlanta. And then Los Angeles, it's 82, and then it's Arizona in the dome. So it's like the 70 something or whatever. It's like I'm looking to attack offenses in the warmer weather games earlier in the season, and I'm not necessarily scared like pitchers like Darvish or even like Shohei Ohtani. Like when they get hit, right? It's one of those things where it's a very high variance situation. Darvish could go out and pitch 88 pitches and have 11 strikeouts today. He could. He could also go out and pitch 1 1/3, give up 8 runs and 4 walks. So like, I like to look at the pitchers that are going to be owned, especially the SP2s. Like you could say Shane Bieber. It's like, oh, why don't you just stack against Shane Bieber? We have his projected ownership at 38% on DraftKings. It's like, well, I need to pick 2. And it's not like there's not great many good pitchers on the slate, and the pricing I don't even care about because you could fit anything you want in on DraftKings. So I look at these 20% owned pitchers like Ohtani, Fried, Darvish, Wainwright, and I look at the difference between it's a weird way of thinking. It's probably the correct way of thinking, is that pitchers like Wainwright and Fried rarely get blown up.
Mhm.
They may have. It may not be a good pitcher's outing, right? They make 5 innings, 5 runs, did 2 strikeouts. Like it's not a good pitcher game, but it's rare that they're giving up 12 runs, right? So if I had to choose between, do I attack Wainwright or Fried, or do I attack Ohtani and Darvish? Like, yes, Ohtani and Darvish have higher upside pitching wise, more strikeouts. So I understand you roster him as a pitcher, but I also understand rostering the stack against them also. So I'm looking for these high variance spots. So Andre, on FanDuel, I mean, you say you're locking Bieber, but I mean, are you really going to play him at 100% of your lineups? And if you're not going to play Bieber on FanDuel, who would you play?
Well, on DK, I said lock him in.
Okay.
In DK, he's definitely like an 8,300 in my opinion. But on FanDuel, the most exposure I probably want to have of him is like 50%, the most. The weather just permits, and like I said, the matchup makes it so it's too good. But like you said, with also the hitting is the main thing I'm thinking about. That's going to be a concern, as far because obviously you need to put up points to need hits to put up points and home runs. So targeting, like you said, those games that are more that don't have that bad weather, like Atlanta and Cincinnati, or like or San Diego, Arizona, like you were mentioning. Those are the games that you might want to try to target more for hitting. And those, and obviously we have other lineups on other teams that are in better situations, like Milwaukee today, which honestly in the pitcher they have going against them is what's his name? Goodness gracious, I deleted him from my pool.
Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, Kyle Hendricks, who isn't that great of a pitcher as he once was before. So it's like, can they? What are the like? You have to think about it. Like you said, we mentioned the wind in Wrigley. Is it going to be more just inside the park hits, or is it because it's not going to be a lot of home runs because of the weather, where the weather is? So therefore, it makes me feel like at that point Milwaukee is going to be overowned, and have to be a little bit lesser owned on Milwaukee, and try to find a way to get a little bit different and go into a stack like San Diego, for instance.
Justin, other pitchers that we talked about a bunch of them. I know the pitcher that's going to be in my DraftKings lineups is my SB2 in more than half my lineups out of the 6. But people are not going to want to roster him. But who do you like outside of the Biebers, the Otanis, the Darvishes, even Wainwright and Fried, who are fine for the slate. We still got other pitchers that we could roster. Who looks best out of the rest of the bunch?
Well, we didn't mention Corbin Burns, and he's kicking off MLB opening day.
Well, that's for FanDuel, right? Remember, the Milwaukee Chicago game is FanDuel only. So, whenever we mention it, stacks and everything, that's just FanDuel.
Correct. From the Chicago Milwaukee game. Obviously, the Cubs lineup is atrocious. They've lost all of their best players. I did the show with Keith Eyster last night, who's a Cubs fan, and it's been quite the transition for Chicago. So, Burns has super K upside. It just comes down to, I'm talking on FanDuel again, he is priced all the way up. What's his pitch count going to be? If they're cruising against Chicago, maybe he pitches just 5 innings. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. I think Tyler Mahle is really interesting for a large field GPP option today. We got him at sub 10% on DraftKings, I see here. And I know this Atlanta lineup is still good. Molly had really extreme home road splits last year. I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's still a pretty small sample size, but it's definitely noteworthy. And he has a respectable K rate, both sides of the plate. So, I mean, he's going to strike guys out. And really, it doesn't look like a lot of people are on him. So I think Molly's an interesting look for larger field tournaments.
Stan in the chat asks Andre, on FanDuel, in GPPs, would you rather play Bieber or Burns?
That's tough. I'm gonna probably say Bieber though, because the price discount a little bit on him. Even though I know this, and I think the strikeout upside is probably a little bit better with Chicago for Burns, but I think Bieber could get there just as much. And I'll take a little bit of a discount.
And we also have a question from Florist Mark about why is Ohtani so cheap on DraftKings? I'm assuming it's because his pitch count. I cannot see Ohtani pitching 100 pitches today.
No, I agree.
Just the way that they treat him as a two-way player. Like during the season, he typically doesn't even pitch 100 pitches. On opening day, I mean, the bat, Cardi has him with tied for the lowest pitch count projected today at 78 pitches. Now it's 7,000. It doesn't mean he can't get there, right? Doesn't mean he pitches. You want him to pitch at least 5 innings so he can get the win bonus. But I mean, that's another thing for FanDuel now. The quality start is that it's possible that no pitcher today gets a quality start. It's possible. I think maybe 1 or 2 do pitch 6 innings efficiently. But like the differences between pitchers today, even though the name value kind of like stands out, like may not be as dramatic as you think. And that's the reason why you know who I'm rostering? In the bat we trust, Justin. I know you're gonna laugh.
I'm not gonna laugh.
You're not gonna laugh?
Nope, I got you.
Andre's gonna laugh. You don't roster this guy on FanDuel though. You don't need to. And his name is Zach Greinke.
Oh God, I knew you were gonna say it.
What year is it, Blender?
It's good reason though to play him though.
He's 5,700. It's cold as hell in Kansas City, right? He's a BABIP pitcher. I know I'm not getting 7 strikeouts out of him, but the Cleveland lineup is if you take a look at their K rates, the Cleveland lineup strikes out a lot. And if Greinke could have 3 or 4 strikeouts and pitch 5 safe innings for 5,700, maybe I get 16 points or something. I mean, like for that price. And I think that the DraftKings construction, people are going to want to jam in like one-off outfielders and like Machado and Lindor. Like you could spend up on everywhere, but to spend up on complete stacks like the Braves stack or the Astros stack, you really can't do unless you're playing some cheap pitcher. Like you're not going to see Bieber Wainwright lineups with a full 5-man expensive stack. So it's like, how do I get different in my construction? And that's one thing that I love about the bat is that more often than not, I'm not saying it happens all the time, but Cardi's projections for pitchers are just, it's almost like I've been using the bat projections for 4+ years. And almost every slate, you're like, oh, this pitcher sucks. But based on the weather conditions and the exact lineup and how the StatCast data works, it's like, wow, 4% owned pitcher is like the 3rd highest rejected pitcher on the slate. And you play them and like, it seems like 3/4 of the time, the projection is dead on and you're getting a low owned pitcher. I don't think he's going to be 13% owned as we have him projected. Maybe he'll end up being like 20. But in comparison to the lineup construction that you're making, you can DraftKings, if you want to make a lineup that leaves 5,000 on the table, perfectly viable today. Absolutely. Especially if you're stacking, like if you're stacking the Pirates or something, some very cheap team, I understand it. But for people that aren't, like people are going to play Bieber plus Darvish, Bieber plus Wainwright, or maybe they'll play some Max Fried, and then they'll get like a Luke Voigt in. We'll go over some cheap bats and stuff that's today on both sites, and then end up paying up for like Soto or something. Like you could see what that lineup construction is. It's like, how do I get away from that lineup construction? Well, why don't I play a $5,700 pitcher? The question is, do I play Greinke or do I play Bumgarner? And truthfully, Bumgarner, I don't have a problem with Bumgarner either. only the only thing I have for Greinke over Bumgarner is that Greinke's pitching in a much colder weather game. Bumgarner, I don't think is a very good pitcher. And the only case for Bumgarner is I think San Diego is going to be the highest owned stack on the slate on DraftKings. So you get much more leverage. Like if the San Diego stack fails, Bumgarner has a decent game, you kill like a quarter of the lineups of the contest. So like to me, like Bumgarner is more of a game theory play, but Greinke is a better projected play. So let's get into hitters. You know me, I don't like going position by position because primarily in GPPs you're building by stacks. But on both sites, Andre, do any hitters stand out, like individual one-off hitters that stand off as value to you? Like the people that like are fillers or like core pieces of, if you're going to build, I'll build a stack and make sure to get this guy in because he's cheap, he's leading off. We have Vogelback, right, leading off for the Pirates. I mean, I'm not sure you do that, but like what hitters, specific individual hitters are you targeting based on, obviously we don't have projected lineups. We only have projected lineups for the last 4 games, but based on what we know now, what hitters are you targeting?
Yeah, like the one-offs, like I do like Luke Voigt's price, former Yankee, miss him. But yeah, his price on FanDuel 2.5, I think is too cheap. I love him today. He's someone I think that I can use as a one-off or obviously in stacks. And you mentioned Vogelback too. I think he's also a good one-off piece for Pittsburgh. And I don't know how many people are going to actually be rostering Pittsburgh today too. So that's another strategy I think people should try to take and go with, because Wainwright will be kind of popular, especially on FanDuel, I would say, more so than DraftKings, I believe. So those are like the top 2 that I was looking at for sure. I scrolled down a little bit here. I just feel like the San Diego, just as a whole, sorry, but San Diego team is just a little bit too cheap. For the fact that they're not getting more owned than what they are, kind of makes me like them a lot more. Like I said, either all of them as one-offs or as a stack, like Will Myers at 26. At 2,600, it's a little bit too cheap. Jake Cronenworth at 3.1K. These are guys that have the power to obviously give you home run upside and multiple home runs in the game, and they're just going unknown and are too cheap in my opinion. And I know it's a lefty with Bumgarner, but I still think that can still happen for sure.
Justin, same question. What hitters are you looking at individually, value-wise, on both sides?
Yeah, I like,
or at least on FanDuel for you. I could do DraftKings.
I like the Will Myers call quite a bit. He makes a lot of sense. He'll be pretty popular. FanDuel play, you get that wind in Chicago, whether or not it's gonna be a factor, but we're looking at per dollar here. Rowdy Tellez hitting in the 5-hole, 2,200. You do get a utility slot on FanDuel, so you can still get one of those premier first basemen as well. So I don't mind Tellez, although that's going to be a very chalky stack. I do like the Mets, so I think JD Davis, 2,100 against that trash can Patrick Corbin. Man, times change. So I think JD Davis is super interesting as well. We're going to need some of these lineups for these later games. Like, I don't know if Chas McCormick's going to start in LA, and we'll talk about weather a little bit when we get there, but it looks to be a little warmer there in LA and Houston. So I do kind of like that. So he could be interesting, as well as Jeremy Pena, stone minimum on FanDuel, 2K shortstop. We have him extremely low owned right now, and he's got a lot of upside. So I think Jeremy Pena is super interesting at shortstop.
So for DraftKings, looking at our projections, JD Davis 2,600 on DraftKings, so even cheaper, right? Because 2,100 when the highest price is 4,500 on like FanDuel is not as cheap as 2,600 on DraftKings, where we have 6K hitters. So I think he's going to be a popular third base value play. Dalton Varsho, if he leads off against Darvish for Arizona, he's catcher eligible. I mean, when it comes to catchers, it's hard to find you want to typically either a catcher with power or a catcher that at least is batting like in the top half of the order. And especially since, for GPP wise, I'm going to be stacking Arizona. If he leads off, if he bats like 8th, he's not horrible or anything like that, but especially if he leads off, he is catcher eligible on DraftKings. We also got Cesar Hernandez is 2,900. If he bats leadoff for Washington against McGill. Luke Voigt, 3,500, batting cleanup, projected against Bumgarner, and same for Will Myers. I think the San Diego stack will be the chalk of the slate. And I think the Mets are going to be short behind that, just based on the pitching matchups and based on just the pricing and the fact that like even the Mets stack, like you can afford any stack on the slate with a little bit of wiggle room. But those would be like the one-offs. Like if I had to choose between these guys, like the guy that I would leave off is like a Cesar Hernandez. And I say that, and of course he's going to hit 3 home runs. Because a lot of times people ask like the one-off strategy. And we have this button in Lineup HQ. I love it. It's my favorite button. Me and Cheese petitioned for God knows how long to get this implemented. We started it last year, and it's called the Only in Stacks button. It's part of Lineup HQ. I think Lineup HQ is the only lineup builder in the entire industry that has an Only in Stacks button. I think you have to. There are other places have different functionalities of how you do it, but I think it's a little bit more complicated. This simplest thing ever.
It's phenomenal. It's
right.
Great. Instead of making player groups and attaching guys with no power upside, but they can still, hitting the top of the order. Like instead of going through all that mess manually, one check of the damn box blender and you're ready to roll. I love it.
Right. So the reason why you'd use this is typically for one-offs, right? I'm targeting people that could get their ceiling in one swing of the bat, right? That's typically. Now it depends on the size of the slate. It depends on the pricing, positional scarcity. Right, you may have a slate where there's no good second baseman anyway, so it's like I don't even care. Like just plug in the best value if it's a one-off. But we get to these 12, 13 game slates, and it's like most likely if Cesar Hernandez has a good game, like probably the Washington stack is the nuts, right? Because it's unlikely that Cesar Hernandez is like a grand slam from Hernandez and that's it. That's the only right. It's most likely he's been on base 4 times. Scored runs. That means the batters behind him in the order are also hitting their ceilings. So like, if I'm gonna play one-offs, I want to play like the power guys. So like, I don't mind playing Luke Voigt as a one-off, right? I don't mind even without that, but maybe you don't. So you could just click that box and go Only in Stacks. Like, so if I'm building 100 lineups, I don't have to worry about if I have 4 lineups with Perdomo, those are all San Diego stacks. So it's him and 3 or 4 other batters. So just showing you the features that we have in Lineup HQ. Andre, on FanDuel, do you do it the similar way? Like, are you more likely when it comes to building one-offs that you're not necessarily leaving these kind of like slap hitting middle infielders like in one-offs in your lineup? Or in FanDuel, you're more likely to just like, can I get Trout? Can I get Soto? Can I get Harper? You're looking for that type of stuff.
That's a little bit of both, I would say. But more so, I would like to try to get like you said, Trout, Soto, the higher end upside guys that as one-offs that can smash and hit multiple home runs in a game and potentially have the highest score because that might be needed, and just find a way to get a sneaky stack. That's typically my route of way I would handling go about building. But like I said, it really just depends also on the slate and how I'm navigating and making sure I get everything that I want as much as I possibly can in my lineups. Because to me that's what matters the most. And Kevin Wright pitching, finding the right low on stack, and that one off. Yes, it might be high on, but I think it's worth it in the end. When you pay up for it at the and get it with the low on stack. Sorry.
Okay, well, talking about sneaky stacks or stacks in general, let's talk about teams that we're stacking. I know I already talked about Arizona as sneaky, if you want to call it sneaky. I think underowned against a seemingly stud pitcher in the bat projections. out of on the DraftKings slate. So we're talking about 12 teams. Arizona has the fourth highest projection, fourth highest ceiling projection, and the best point per dollar ceiling value on the slate. So the data backs up as far as the bat is concerned. I'm not just pulling this stuff out of thin air, out of my ass. So if Greinke and the Diamondbacks, that doesn't sound like the best combination. I'm not even sure if I could do that together. I probably have to leave 4,000 or 5,000 on the table in order to even do that. But Justin, what stacks are you looking at today?
I think the Astros are interesting. We're picking on stud pitchers. We kind of touched on that game a little bit before. We're going to get into some of these bullpens earlier than we will a month from now. And I think everyone has to take that into consideration. And I think Ohtani is I think I'm the most concerned with Ohtani's pitch count out of any pitcher on the slate, probably. I know you started kind of going down that route a little earlier, Blender, but I think let's have that conversation now. We've seen a couple of games last year where he's been electric, obviously, but there's also been a couple where he just doesn't have the command. And to me, what's a better day to target one of those potential outlier games than the opening game of the season? You factor in he's going to be on a leash. I don't know what the number is. On the flip side of that, Houston does not strike out and they walk a lot. So they have no problem taking pitches and running this thing up. So there aren't many slates, as we know, where you're going to get the Astros as a contrarian off the radar stack. And they might not be totally off the radar by the time, mid-afternoon rolls around. But they're probably my favorite tournament stack right now. I'm going to roll the dice against Ohtani with Houston.
Andre, stacks.
I definitely agree with that. I like Houston a lot. I like Houston a lot today as a primary stack, but I do also like getting to the play that you made earlier with Arizona as a cheap stack going against Darvish. I think Darvish will be. I know we have the top pitchers as Shane Bieber, Burns, and then I think Darvish is right behind them. So Darvish being on FanDuel specifically, probably going to be, I think, a little bit more owned on this slate. It makes me want to just go against him a little bit more and go with a guy like Arizona, who pretty much had his number majority of the games last year that he's played in. He saw I think I want to say a negative. I want to say -5, -2 games, -3. A couple of negative games against Arizona, which is surprising for him to do that. And even in his good start, he only had put up 20 fantasy points on FanDuel. So I do love getting to Arizona a lot today. I'm probably going to be. It's not going to be easy to be. Not going to be hard to be over the field on them. So I'll be well over the field with them. But like I said, the other two, mainly Houston's going to be someone I'm going to be targeting a lot of today. And I do like Milwaukee, but the weather just concerns me. So I might just back off of them a little bit as much as I was on them earlier today.
To add to this, I think Atlanta is going to be under-owned today based on, obviously it's 59 degrees there in Atlanta. And I think Atlanta is overpriced. But that's going to be the perception that they're overpriced. So as a stack, remember, on DraftKings, it's pay whatever you want day, right? It's, the salary doesn't really matter that much on DraftKings today. So should Austin Riley be 5,400? Should Matt Olson be 5,700? Should Albies be 5,500 in that game environment with a 4.86 implied run total, which is still the highest on the slate, but we're not talking about 5.5s and 6s or anything. I think less people would be inclined to play them. So as a stack, I don't know, as one-offs, but just to build that expensive stack, play Zach Greinke, right? That Braves, Diamondbacks, Greinke, Bieber lineup. Don't dupe me, bro. I will have that, but it's not. I don't think they're going to do well. It's a matter of, with me, it's all projection versus ownership. So it's well, if Greinke doesn't do well, and then Max, then what? It's a 162 game baseball season. The way that I play. You guys know the way I play GPPs. All I have to do is bink once or twice a season. It's give me 100K once, right? Andre knows. We all know that's how you play GPPs. It's not about what's the most probable. It's about what's the most profitable. And someone asked about, I saw in the chat about the angel stack.
I was just about to mention them.
I have a question for you about the angel stack. It's a broad strategy question. I rarely play the angel stack when Ohtani is pitching because it essentially takes out a batter in your line. I mean, like these, I can't believe the sites can't have Ohtani as a batter and a pitcher on the same slate. But like, if Ohtani's going to lead off, it's like, and the Angels are going to put up 8 runs, 10 runs, like most likely Ohtani's going to get a lot of that production, and you don't even get to roster him as a batter. Do you even think about that when it comes to the Angels?
No, I don't, because but that's something I probably should think about more now. But I just have confidence in the offense. I know, and we got Mike Trout coming back this year, too. So I'm just confident in the offense that they can get right against Valdez, because Valdez is very volatile as well. I know he doesn't have the best control, and he's been up and down a lot in his career. So that's someone I don't mind taking a chance on the stack against with a whole bunch of righties that we know that the Angels are going to have, and in a lefty and Jordan and Jared Walsh, who I think can smash Valdez too as well. It's something that I haven't considered, but it does something that you can't think about. But I think that whole stack is a very sneaky but good one. Being with, especially leading off with Mike Trout and Rendon, who can still have monster games and be responsible for majority of the runs.
Justin, QQ from the chat, thoughts on a Milwaukee wraparound stack?
Yeah, I mean, you can get different that way. You know, I was even debating on pitching, like on FanDuel, we have Bieber coming in higher than any other pitcher ownership wise. And I was kind of thinking of maybe not pitching Bieber with the top of that order, which is going to be super chalk in Milwaukee. Like in my builds, like maybe playing Bieber with lower, you know, the 5 through whatever, the bottom of the order. So I kind of like that idea. And, you know, Cheese actually wrote a good article a couple of years ago. I think I have a bookmark somewhere where, you know, there isn't a huge discrepancy in like output from the top of the order of a best stack and the bottom of the order. And I thought that was really interesting. So I do like that idea of you know, getting a little bit different that way.
Well, I mean, if you go through the data, it's proven that the correlation coefficients between the batters on the same team are worth enough to play that the differences between the gaps of the batters don't matter as much.
You articulated that much better than I did, so thank you.
Okay. Okay. Is that what you try? Basically, so many people are like, well, can I 1, 2, 3, 4? Like, what's the biggest gap? Can I do 1, 2, 4, 8? Right? Is that too much of a gap? It's like, dude, all the batters are correlated enough. Yes, the closer they are, they're correlated a little bit more. Correct. But it's kind of like they're correlated 90% of the way there, no matter where they are in the order. It's just that extra 10%, that extra up there, like that's the like. So if you don't have to think in terms like of a wrapper. Oh, play 8, 9, 1, 2. It's like just play 5 like on FanDuel, play 4 batters. Play DraftKings, play 5. Where they show up in the lineup doesn't. That shouldn't be your priority. That should be like the 17th thing on the list of like, if given the chance, maybe make them close the gaps in between them, but that shouldn't be where you start from.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that a better way? Am I a better explanationer?
That's why you're the host.
No, I shouldn't be the host with the amount of how much I talk. Right, on a 3-man show. I'm surprised either you got a word in today. Okay, we got some more questions. We got 10 minutes left. We got crunch time coming on. Free crunch. Oh, it's free crunch time today. I forgot. It's not for premium members. We're coming on right after this. You get to see Roth and Cheese and Keith Eyster. You see are they the more attractive people? I was going to say the more attractive people, but it's like, no, like I'm holding down the show. So I don't know what the averages on that show. So if you got any questions, please post them in the Discord, the live stream chat channel, or in the YouTube chat for both of you, I guess. Here's a good Andre quickly, and as few words as possible, the difference between playing NBA DFS and MLB DFS. If you've just been playing NBA and you've never played MLB DFS, what would be the 2 things or something that you would tell someone that's the biggest difference between the two?
Stacking matters a lot more in MLB versus NBA. I personally I understand value matters. Value matters more in MLB and also value matters more in NBA versus MLB in my opinion as well. I get into a broader detail about that, but that'll be too long.
Right. Essentially, the MLB is a very event-driven sport. NBA is very iterative scoring. It's very hard for someone to come on the court for 4 minutes and score 60 fantasy points, but someone could get 2 at bats in a baseball game and be the highest scorer on the entire slate. Yep. They hit 2 grand slams or something. So the difference is like, oh, I need to play the $2,400 hitter because they have the best point per dollar value. Doesn't matter as much. But when the Thunder are rolling out a 42-minute point guard for 3K, it's like that's the type of player that you have in all of your lineups. So to me, that would be the first biggest difference. And the second biggest difference is that there's correlation between batters is ridiculously higher than the correlation between players in an NBA game. So if you're playing GPPs, you're pretty much stacking at least 1 team. And depending on how you construct your lineups, you could stack 2 teams. FanDuel, you could do a 4-4, 4-3-1, 3-3-2. DraftKings, you could do a 5-man stack. You could do 5-man and 3 one-offs. You could do a 5 and a 3 from another team. But you will see the random. Can you pick out the 8 home runs that get hit today? Type of lineups where it's all one-offs in the winning lineup. Those are net losing lineups. Unprofitable lineups in the long run, but still there's enough of those garbage lineups in GPPs that someone has the magic ball and they have all the right guys. Like to do that on a consistent basis is literally impossible. So stack as much as you can. Okay, let's see. Go through some of the chat here that has to do with the slate. I mean, someone asked, is Andre related to Anthony Alford on the Pirates?
Honestly, I don't know. I can find. I have to ask my family about that, but I might be. I know I had a couple of NFL players and basketball players in my family tree though.
But Alfred, it's not like it's a very uncommon last name.
Yeah, true. At the same time, I don't see a lot of Alfreds either.
You see a lot of Coopers.
Oh, yeah, that you do.
Okay, let's see. James asked, what would be your strategy for a single bullet in a 150 max tournament? Because obviously they got like a free entry or something. What I would do, but what would you guys do if you had 1 free entry into 150 max tournament today? What would you do?
I'd leverage against the highest owned pitcher, probably. I mean, what else are you gonna do? And maybe throw Zach Greinke if it's DraftKings.
Ooh, yeah, I would. I'll leverage.
Not pitch Shane Bieber either. So.
Oh yeah, I would just not play. I probably play Burns instead of Bieber. That's where it get different, and then go with a low owned stack that no one's gonna pretty much be on. Which there are a few today that you can go with that have high upside.
Right. In general, conceptually, the less entries you have, the more risky you should be.
Yep.
Right. Most people do the complete opposite, and that's why there's an edge in DFS. Right. So if I only got 1 entry, so many people are like, well, I want to make sure I cash with that entry. Well, that's how you're going to lose money over the long run, and how us guys make money by taking the risk. So if you're going to play, I'm going to play 6 lineups today. I have no problem like playing the 6 riskiest lineups possible. When you play 150, you actually get a little bit more conservative because the cost of entering 150 lineups is very high. So it's like, I don't want to build 150 of the highest risk lineups possible because I could go 3 weeks and lose all my money every single slate. And next thing you know, I'm down 30 grand like that. So you want to kind of build a floor where you're getting some things, but you're building some lineups that are like, well, it's not as risky, but it can still win a GPP. But like you have a little bit more diversity in your lineup portfolio. But if you're playing 3 lineups for $15 a piece and the $45, it's not like I got to pay the rent this week, type of thing. Like you shouldn't be playing at all then. Like you should be playing the highest EV lineups that you can, not the lineups that will cash for 1.5x a little bit more often than others. So if I had a freebie entry, that's what I would do. I just maybe you don't stack against Bieber, but build it. Maybe you dupe me. You play the Diamondbacks and Greinke.
Scared money don't make no money either.
Right, scared money don't make no money. Right.
Yep.
Mike asks, well, this is for DraftKings. Is 5-3 stack most profitable in MLB or the 5X? It all depends on the slate. I mean, there's no. What I said, would you agree with this, Justin? If you've never played MLB before, okay, that I've said this before. It sounds almost stupid, but I think it's fine. Never played MLB before. Bankroll doesn't matter to you. So it's like you're just playing. I'm going to play 1 entry a day, 2 entry. Like it's just for entertainment purposes. If you were to just to default to playing 5-3 on DraftKings, like every slate, just like no matter what, use all of your salary or most of it to build any 5-3 lineup with 2 decent pitchers, and you just tried to get the stacks that had the highest team totals. Like if you literally looked at nothing else other than team totals and that you were going to build 5-3 stacks compared to most lineups, like I think you'd be competitive doing it that way, right?
Yeah. Eventually 5-3 would be optimal and you'd be in pretty good shape. Like you said, there's so many uncorrelated garbage lineups in MLB that you would have an edge on at least some of the slates, right? So I do agree with that. Of course, there's a million other things that go into it, but having, whatever process you buy into, as long as it's correlated, like keeping it consistent, I think is big, because like you can't go through 3 or 4 days and ditch something and say you're just not having any results, right? So especially over such a long season with so many slates, buy into a process, make sure it's correlated, stack in MLB, and whether it's a 5-3 or whatever, when Slate IQ is up and running, that's a great piece, and you'll be able to see what history has shown with our historical data. So yeah, I think I'm with you on that, Blender.
Orlando asks, can I just play Trout, O'Neill, and Myers and round that off? Can you just do that? Well, you're going to have to roster other players on that. You're not going to do well with just 3 players, right?
Yeah. Well, what's the rest of the stack? Let's hear that.
Right. Daniel asks, thoughts on Abrams at shortstop for 2K?
Let's see. Let me pull this.
That's CJ Abrams, right? If I'm correct. Hold on, sorry.
Is he in the lineup?
I don't even see him in my projections unless I cross him off. Let me see if I cross him off. He's not even there. He's not coming. I don't see him in my projections at all. So I remember every single body in my team. Yeah, he didn't come up at all. I don't know if he's plays for San Diego, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not in the projected lineup.
He's not in the projected lineup right now.
Right. So no, don't play him if he's not starting. Right?
Definitely.
If he is, he's worth a punt. I mean,
right. We have Kim projected to start at shortstop.
He
should.
Like, not for granted though. He did post a picture saying I'm ready. I am ready. Like he's, I don't know. That was like an hour ago. So he might be playing tonight. We'll see.
Jana, favorite SP2 pivot off of Wainwright. You know me, I'm going to say Greinke, but so this will be DraftKings SP2. So obviously,
yeah, that's that probably is it. Like, yeah, or if you want to take a chance on McGill against Washington, you could do that too.
I think the pitching points are going to be fairly narrow today. I don't see. There's a high likelihood that no one gets blown up, right? That it's quite likely today that there's no team that puts up more than 6 runs, and no pitcher that gives up more than 4.
I agree with that, but like I just feel though like for instance, like, well, at least on DraftKings, I know like Shane Bieber. I mean, obviously there's a couple of pitchers that can get this amount of strikeouts that he has, but What if he gets like 10? What if he just walks him down and gets like 10 to 12 strikeouts? Like, I think he's going to be needed, obviously, but he's a lock in my opinion. But like, and even on FanDuel, for instance, I was doing the same thing about Burns. Burns in the Chicago game, which is a really bad weather game. If he gets like, even though he's 11-2, he could realistically get 10 to 12 strikeouts.
Or he could realistically not. I'm doing the opposite. Oh, we got the crunch time people in. I see they're either in the back room or I don't know if they can see you out there. How you doing?
I think we're here.
You are here.
What's going on?
I think this is real. I think this is happening.
I called you guys the better looking show for today, only because I'm dragging down the average of our show.
Yeah, I did make some upgrades to my appearance, obviously, in the off season.
Okay, so are we switching off to you guys? Roth, you got the weather. Roth, it's all I'm hearing about. Tons of wind blowing out, other than the fact that it's like Antarctica weather.
Right. And so like that is literally the entire purpose of Weather Edge. We'll talk about that coming up in a bit. But yeah, how was your show? Did you do good? Just checking in. You have a good show?
I didn't tell anyone I didn't yell at anyone to play whoever they wanted. And I didn't curse someone out to look at the projection. So I think that's a good show.
All right. I think you're doing it wrong. You gotta stay with who you are, man. All right. Well, thank you guys for taking the bridge and getting it going. I think we will take over here
taking the bridge.
I don't know.
Is that a statement?
Transition. I don't know, Cheese.
Great job,
like
guys.
These transitions, they're awkward for me.
Just took the heck out of that bridge today. Great job.
I'm still learning how to do these transitions. So Dre, is it Luch or Keith who's with me?
Keith is with you. Luch is with me.
All right. Luch, Dre. Later, guys.
Later. Good luck.
Got a blast.
Thank you. Okay. Hey, I just learned something that is fascinating here for Crunch Time, and that is Crunch Time is free. Not just today, but Crunch Time, sponsored by FanDuel, is free all freaking season long. How awesome is that?
Oh, I am also then just learning something. I did not know that until just now.
Yeah, it's that is excellent news, because so many times I have this crucial weather information and I want to share it with everyone, but it's a premium show and I can only share it with premium folks. The good news is we still do have all kinds of great stuff for our premium users. That includes Weather Edge, which is now premium only. We'll talk about that in a bit. But first and foremost, we got two of the sharpest minds in the biz. If you are not aware of Dave Potts, aka CheeseIsGood, he is the man who decided winning the Millie was so nice he'd do it twice. Did I make that up?
Well, I mean, I decide a lot of things. They don't always happen, but yes, that was a long time ago. Since then,
it's not like it doesn't count. It's like riding a bike. If you win the Millie once, you know how to do it again.
We will see. We shall see. I'm hoping, they ran like several just totally random Millie makers in NBA. Yeah, I'm hoping we get that in baseball this season. Like just some random Tuesday in the middle of the season, like, hey, we're doing a Millie today. So hopefully we get a couple of those.
Right. Well, if we do, we know that you are the guy to help guide us through that. We also have Keith, aka the Iceman, here, been joining me for NBA shows, and I just love the way that you break down your tournament plays. I love your thought process on things, and I'm excited to work with you for MLB as well.
Yeah, super excited for MLB. Good to be back with you. Great to see Cheese. We've definitely missed you. Excited for this MLB season to kick off here. Yeah,
it's good to be back. Yeah.
Geez, how was hibernation for 6 months? How did it go for you?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I play a lot of NHL and esports. Those are my new things to keep me busy in the off season. But it was nice to not have to shave or put on a shirt with a collar. Technically, I don't have to put on a shirt with a collar, but I'm just like, I want to show you guys up a little bit on opening day at least.
And how interested are you in esports personally? How often do you play these video games that you're betting on in esports?
So I actually don't play them at all. I'm really not a video game person, like to play the games. I actually find it more interesting to learn about people who are good at them than try to figure out how to get myself to be good at them.
That's fascinating to me that you're a successful esports player doing that, but I know that it's been working for you.
But like anyone, I mean, like most people don't play basketball or
soccer.
baseball or
That's true.
whatever, or
Yeah,
drive
it is.
NASCAR, but you can be good at DFS.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but like
Keith
video games,
Keith is good at all of it. Keith
Video games
actually
you all
could play in
could
the
do.
NBA. Yeah, that's true.
No, not in the NBA.
Okay, guys, I am stoked for this opening day, mostly because they already postponed the 2 ugliest games. That really, you should have seen me. I was celebrating like, I don't know, like Tiger Woods just won the Masters. Like I was so pumped when I saw those postponements come down.
I mean, it's really great. They're not going to do that regularly because it was just because they had the off day tomorrow kind of baked in. But hey, it's a good start.
Oh man, it made me very happy. But it doesn't mean that we're completely free with weather. Normally at this point, I would pop up Radar and we would do a whole fancy give and go. I think we're going to skip that. As a first show, it's a free show. I don't want to mess with the fancy tech. Well, if we bungle something, we can do it on our second show. But we'll steer clear of the Radar and I'll just kind of talk through it here. 3 games where there's a chance for a delay. I don't think we will see a delay in any of them. But in Chicago, and this is in order of most likely to see delay to least likely to see delay: Chicago, Kansas City, St. Louis. I've got Chicago is yellow, Kansas City is yellow-green, St. Louis is green-yellow, which are just varying degrees of lower likely to see a delay. All of them, it's light rain. It's just light enough where it's going to, and pull the tarp and the rain's gone. It's light passing showers. They're just going to play through it. My only issue is that it's 40 something degrees in Chicago and it's cold and it's wet and it's windy. The weather is just absolute garbage. But that's what they get in Chicago. They're used to it.
And let's start right there, because you kind of said this in your write-up. Like, you think the cold weather essentially negates the wind blowing out. Like it's probably kind of a neutral thing overall. Like it's still not great hitting weather, even though the wind's out. Is that your thought on it?
That's how I have it. We all know Chicago is, you get wriggly winds. Everyone gets all excited. And it's blowing out 15 to 20 miles per hour to dead center. But temperatures in the 40s is really cold, dense air. I looked at Weather Edge on it, which is a program that automatically pulls all the past data from similar weather games from the year 2000 on and shows, all right, what happened? How many home runs do we have? How many runs? Sharply down for runs and home runs. But the sample size, because this is crazy weather, is only 4 games, which, Derek Carty would be screaming at me for even mentioning something with a 4-game sample size. But I think just intuitively, I think it's a wash. Winds blowing out, cold weather. I think it's a wash. I would be on the under of it, especially when I think it came out at like 10.5 runs or something, the total.
Yeah.
But now I think it's dropped since then. Anyways, similar story in Kansas City and St. Louis too, where the winds are a little helpful, the cold is a little not. My favorite hitting game is actually Anaheim, where it's the high temperature is going to be like 100 degrees today. By first pitch, it's more like 80. I think that's the best hitting weather of the slate. And that's pretty much my weather breakdown. Cheese, is there anything else you want me to fill you in on?
No. So, this is a good start. So we don't have to, I'm certainly not changing anything based on any of that. All those 3 games that you said have, just like the mild chance, they're all games with good pitchers. But I'm not changing anything there.
Right. I mean, are all games, this is game 1, isn't everybody throwing their best?
Well,
pitchers?
what's interesting
right here,
and we'll talk about that, like it's really not that great of a pitching slate. Tomorrow is going to feel more like opening day. We don't have a lot of great pitchers. A lot of the best offenses are on this slate. Like it's kind of, it's not disappointing. It's still opening day, but it doesn't have what you would have expected it to have.
right? It's like a soft open. It's not the grand open.
Yeah. There's really only one like legit ace on the slate today. And that's only on FanDuel.
All right. Well, I feel like this does transition nicely into FanDuel. FanDuel plugs coming soon. By the way, FanDuel sponsor the show. We got all kinds of great tournaments running. We'll talk about some of those coming up in a little bit. Why don't you talk a little bit about your FanDuel build and your thoughts? In particular, you can go in general or getting into pitcher for us.
Yeah, let's do pitcher first, and we'll kind of do everything else in general. Salary, we saw this late last year, and we're seeing it again, on the first day. The pitcher pricing is tighter on FanDuel. Also, I'll call it sharper if you want than it is on DraftKings. To me, with only one pitcher and first start of the year, we should assume no one is fully stretched out. We're not going to see any complete games. Pitch counts will not be high. I think it's a spread out day on this one pitcher side. To me, Corbin Burns is on top, followed closely by Bieber. And then with salary baked in, Wainwright is my third favorite. But really, for me, Bieber, Burns, Wainwright, and Fried, and Darvish, those five is pretty much a toss-up. And I have it pretty well split between those five. Like, there's just not any reason to think anyone's going to put up the huge game. The best pitcher is Burns, but I also say I'm kind of the least expecting him to go super long because that's just the way the Brewers operate. So like if salary is no issue at all, I would play Burns first, Bieber second. Assuming salary is an issue, I would play Wainwright first. Maybe sprinkle in some Greinke. If you need to go cheap, I like Tyler McGill the most. But salaries is not that tight. It's tight if you're playing Burns and kind of tight if you're playing Bieber. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Do you want to talk about some of the other plays, or that's pretty much all you're touching?
So you can play a little bit of anyone. Like, it really is that this is the least we'll ever know about what's going to happen this season is today. Like, until these guys get out there and do it. And keep in mind, we had a short spring too. So while we usually don't know what they're going to do when their first start, we know even less today. Mm-hmm. So, I have JT Brubaker in a lineup. I have Tyler Mahle. I have a Bumgarner lineup. You can play any of these guys, like, really and truly. Well, none of them other than Burns are like superstars. None of them are bad either. Mm-hmm. These are all at least decent pitchers with a path to a good start. So I really think you want to be spreading it out until we figure out who's in midseason form. We're not going to know until at least after today.
Okay. Ice, let's talk about some of your tournament thoughts here for pitchers. Are you spreading it out? Are you going overweight on a guy? Are you fading some of the more popular guys? What are your plans?
It's definitely a spread it around type of day. And that's just the nature. First start of the season, it is really hard to know if anybody might be limited, who might just randomly throw 100 pitches. So Bieber projecting for the most ownership. Love the matchup, love the pitcher, but this is a guy coming off a major shoulder injury. He threw 6 innings after mid-June last season. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. He's not somebody I'm trying to necessarily get way overweight on or anything like that. I think that playing overweight on some of the lower owned guys and kind of matching the field, maybe coming in slightly under on Bieber is the way that I'm going to play it. Burns, great matchup against the Cubs. I do want to note, though, the Cubs were a very high strikeout team last year. They have made some changes to that by adding Nick Madrigal, and Nico Horner was out of the lineup injured a lot last year. Both of those guys are very low strikeout guys. Now, Burns is an elite strikeout pitcher and certainly has upside in any type of matchup, but it is worth noting that the Cubs strikeout rate should come down this year. I still want to be overweight on Burns with him projecting at just 10% ownership here on FanDuel. Wainwright is the guy I'm going to be the most over the field on, and it's due to the matchup. He's not like a strikeout pitcher, but Pittsburgh is just not a great offense. He's also one of the guys I feel good about going fairly deep into a game. Veteran guy, knows how to ramp up for a season, and don't think that he'll necessarily be impacted by the shorter ramp up period here. So love the price on Wainwright. I'll be over the field on him for sure. And then Tyler Mahle is the super low owned guy. I'm looking for a little bit of strikeout upside. Very tough matchup against Atlanta. But a guy that showed improvements, was limiting hard contact to lefties better last year than he had previously in his career. So I have interest in Mahle for tournaments as well.
Okay, great stuff. It sounds like if we're going to win these tournaments, we may have to do it with the bats. Speaking of tournaments, FanDuel offering $100K to first here, and this is a $4 entry in their $400K Thursday MLB Squeeze contest. You can also sign up for FanDuel, the sportsbook right now. New users get a risk-free bet up to $1K. By the way, if you're looking for some of these bets, like, all right, you get it $1K, how are you going to bet it? We got you covered at scoresandodds.com. Number one place for all things sports betting. Cheese, let's talk about bats.
All right. So we need to just put the pause button on everything for a second, because we just got a link to an article in the Cleveland paper that says Bieber might be limited to 60 to 70 pitches. I had not seen that until, 2 minutes ago. That does change things. Now, 60 to 70, honestly, I don't expect a lot of people to be more than 60 to 70 pitches, really. I mean, I think Ohtani throws about 70. That's why I don't love him. Other than Wainwright, which is why I have Wainwright as a core play, even though I don't particularly love him. 60 to 70 is a little low. Like I was thinking, more like 80 for Bieber.
Right.
Kind of whoop-de-doo. Like you're not going to win with pitcher today. I really don't think there's any path to winning with pitch. Like nobody's putting up a 45-point game. That's a DraftKings 35, a FanDuel like 50-ish.
Right.
Like it's. I will relook at some of my lineups after this and see if maybe I want to swap off a little Bieber to a little more Wainwright or something. But like you just said, we might need to win it with the bats. I think that's what we're going to see. There's not going to be a huge pitcher score. So yeah, let's figure out how to win it with the bats. And I will sort of think about this Bieber thing that I've just heard now.
I assume he's the most expensive, right? Bieber, he's one of the
He's not.
Okay.
No, actually,
All right.
that makes it a little weirder too.
Right.
So what I'll say about the Bieber thing, it makes me definitely like him less on FanDuel because he is the third most expensive on FanDuel, and that takes away any chance of the quality start. So I would definitely move. I like Burns better than him anyway. I would move Wainwright ahead of him and probably Fried and Darvish as well on FanDuel.
Let me get your thoughts on this real quick before we dive into some of the bats here. Is that going to be enough pitches to put up the score that you want to take down a tournament?
It certainly makes it more difficult. But like Cheese said, I'm not sure how many people even touch 80 pitches today anyway. I was already on the fade Bieber train just because of the injury last year. This makes, I think he's going to become less popular because it's out there though. Now is the only problem. More people.
Now are you going to him?
I'm mulling that over in my mind right now.
Let me just tell you that I am untagging him as core play. Just that's enough to, make it to do that. So he's off the core playlist.
He did 3 1/3 was his longest spring outing for the record, whatever that's worth. Obviously it's spring training and they're never going to throw 100 pitches in a spring training game, but I was a little bit concerned about the leash, and that just kind of confirms that for me.
Okay. Cheese, shall we talk some hitters?
Yeah, let's talk some hitters. I'm just kind of mulling this over in my head. But yeah, let's go to some hitters.
Okay. Lead us off. We start at the catcher position generally, unless you want to talk kind of big picture.
So again, we'll do FanDuel first because they're locking in 20 minutes. So DraftKings, we've got some time. And so like we saw last year, FanDuel, it's the catcher / first base position. So you don't really need catchers on FanDuel. And usually outside of stacks, you're not really playing any catchers. Certainly like Dalton Varsho is someone that the bat really likes, and I like him as well as a hitter. But other than that, like maybe you play a Sal Perez or guys in their stacks, but for FanDuel, we're really talking first base. To me, the big two guys are Pete Alonso and Luke Voit. Voit is cheap. The Padres are going to be popular. They're facing Bumgarner. I like Matt Olson a lot too. I like Paul Goldschmidt a lot. But as far as sort of primary plays, Alonso and Voit jump out at me.
Okay. Ice tournament thoughts over at first?
Yeah, Pete Alonso is catching a ton of ownership today. He's a phenomenal play, but Cheese just touched on a guy. Matt Olson is a phenomenal pivot in my mind, coming at far less ownership. And Cronenworth, lefty. Nobody's going to play him over here on FanDuel. Those are the two primary guys in tournaments. I still love Alonso. I'll have plenty of him. But that's a big ownership number. Matt Olson would be my favorite tournament play.
Okay. And let's just kind of alternate this so that, Cheese doesn't go first every time and take all the plays. Ice, why don't you take us to second base?
All right. So Cesar Hernandez's price is really cheap. He's projected to lead off here for Washington. Like that matchup, love the price. Ketel Marte is one of my favorite tournament plays. Tough matchup with Darvish. but he should be up at the top of that Arizona lineup. Eduardo Escobar against Patrick Corbin is a good matchup. And Jose Altuve, not seeing anybody playing him, tough matchup with Otani, but really like Altuve for tournaments.
Cheese, second.
So on FanDuel, I do like Colton Wong because he's cheap. Really, the only second baseman I kind of like is Ozzy Albies. Otherwise, hey, there's a lot of positions like this. Like I said, it's really not a great opening day slate, and a lot of the best teams and best players are just not on this slate. So I'm mostly going to second base in a stack. If I got money, I'm going to play Albies.
Okay. Shortstop next.
Let's do third because that's
way
the
it's-
order it is there. But you're right. It does make more sense. Like if you're
around the
moving
horn,
around.
it would
Yeah.
go short, but I guess the way they do it.
Yeah.
All right, fine. I'll allow it.
I'm just going by the order we have them
All
listed here. But I'm actually with you, Roth. You're a thinker, and I like it. I like everything about where you're headed here. The most popular player on the slate is going to be Manny Machado. And he should be the most popular, but it's not like there is no can't miss player ever, especially on opening day. Who knows? Like don't go crazy with any hitter, but Machado is the best play on the board. But like we saw most of the last couple of years, third base is probably the best position overall. If you need someone cheap, JD Davis, super cheap against Corbin. I love Jose Ramirez today. Both Bregman and Rendon in that Houston Anaheim game. Very interesting. Those are kind of my main guys.
Okay. Ice tournament thoughts over at third.
I like a lot of the same guys Cheese mentioned. JD Davis just far too cheap. Not a great year last year, but I mean, he's near minimum price. I like that a lot. Arenado is another one I'll mention. A decent matchup against Brubaker. Not a pitcher that scares me. Like Bregman, like Ramirez as well. Austin Riley had a great year for the Braves last year. All of the Braves are a little bit overpriced, and that's a stack that I think is going to be a little bit underowned today.
Okay. Shortstop. Ice, you can lead us in there if you'd like.
All right. On FanDuel specifically, Adames is underpriced, as are most of the Brewers. Lindor is a phenomenal option up at the top. Really like the price on Paul DeJong. Just mentioned that matchup against Brubaker. And Dansby Swanson would be the Brave over here. I like him as well, even though he's hitting near the bottom of the order. And one more, Bobby Witt Jr., one of the top prospects in baseball, hitting second for Cleveland today. Nobody's playing him against Bieber, but like the leverage there.
Okay. Cheese.
Yeah, Francisco Lindor is kind of overpriced, except salary just might not matter at all, especially if you're not playing Burns and Bieber on FanDuel. Like you have money to kind of play whoever you want. So I do like Lindor the best. But salary wise, Adames, Paul DeJong, and agree with the Bobby Witt play there. And you could throw Mondesi in there. I kind of liked some Royals anyway, even against Bieber. If you assume he's only going to go 4 innings, maybe you like them a little more. They're an interesting team today.
Take us to the outfield.
So other than Machado, I would say that two best plays on the slate are Trout and Soto. And again, you can afford kind of whoever you want. You can certainly get one of those guys. And I have Trout tagged as the core play. You could call it Soto. I've got the bat projections pulled up, and you're going to see a lot of Brewers because of that Wrigley wind. I'm kind of with you that I don't know. I'm not calling this a Wrigley wind game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the weather's going to do to it. So I don't like Yelich that much, but he's fine. One of the things that might just decide this slate is Houston against Otani on both the pitching and the hitting sides. Like Otani towards the end of last year became just an absolute super stud. Like he figured everything out. If he's that guy again, you might need Otani in your lineup. But if he's sort of back to his controls a little off, and he's another guy, maybe he only pitches 4 innings, then this Houston stack could be the winner. And I like Alvarez and Tucker, even if you like Otani, which I do. I still like Alvarez and Tucker. It's kind of high-end outfield plays. Tyler O'Neill, I like as a one-off. I prefer the salary savers in the infield, but the the Braves, Keith mentioned the Braves as a stack. They do have some cheap outfielders like Duvall, Rosario, Ozuna on FanDuel. Very affordable.
All right. Ice, a few outfield plays on FanDuel for us.
Yep. Love Trout and Soto at the top. Completely agree with Cheese's call on the Astros guys. Tucker and Alvarez, both phenomenal plays. I think Ohtani has leash concerns, and the Angels bullpen isn't great either. So like he mentioned, even if you like Ohtani today, you could still play these Astros outfielders. Starling Marte is somebody I like as well against Corbin. And Will Myers is one of my favorite cheap guys with a great platoon advantage against Bumgarner. Really like him. Marcelo Ozuna is interesting. Guy that had some off the field problems last year and missed a bunch of the season. He's just 2,900. I think he's interesting. And Franmil Reyes against Greinke, good power bat there.
Okay, excellent. What we didn't talk about here were some stacks. And Ice, you kind of alluded to a few. I think Cheese, you may have mentioned it as well. But Cheese, why don't you start with your favorite stacks, and then we'll get Ice's as well. And we will be opening it up to questions as well in our RG Discord.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to say, and I said this at the beginning, and I'm not trying to be funny. Like, this is the least we will ever know about anything. Like, it's opening day. These pitchers who might only throw, like we just heard 5 minutes ago, Bieber's 60 to 70 pitches. Everyone might be 60 to 70 pitches. Like, it was a short spring. Like, we don't know who's ready and who's not. Mm-hmm. If you're multi-entering, like, you should stack every single team. I have multiple stacks of every team on this slate because we don't know who's ready to go and who isn't. We just don't.
Who's your favorite stacks, though?
My favorite stacks, Braves. On FanDuel, I would put Milwaukee up pretty high, but I would go Braves, Cardinals, Mets, Astros, Padres. Those are my top 5.
Okay.
I think the Padres will be kind of the most popular out of that, so I'm going to kind of bump the Braves up ahead of them.
Okay. Ice, what are your favorite stacks here? You feel similar?
I do feel similar. I think Atlanta and the Mets are my 2 favorite. San Diego right there. San Diego, it's an ownership thing. I think they're probably the top projected offense. But I do like the pivots to the Mets and the Braves. Houston is one of my favorites, and St. Louis.
All right. Excellent stuff. Let's see. Just more information about the pitch count here in the Discord, Cheese. I don't know if you're seeing that coming through, or at least the thoughts about a pitch count.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I think about this. Like, people have been talking about and looking into stuff all week, right? And then 10 minutes before, log, like, we find one article that the last sentence of it says, with no quote from a manager or a player, right? Like, I don't know.
But it feels like it's going to drive ownership down, and maybe it shouldn't.
Yeah. Like, I don't personally have 100% confidence that Bieber is limited to 70 pitches. I have no idea. I'm not going to be surprised if he throws 83 pitches and gets 6 shutout innings. I don't know. I am going to lower him some. And like I say, I took off the core tag on him. I would just play Wainwright ahead of him. But salary's no issue at all. And no pitcher is fully stretched out. Nobody's getting 100 pitches. So I'm still playing some Bieber. But yeah, after this, I'm going to mess around with it. And I'm certainly going to come down some on my Bieber ownership.
Okay, so I like this question from Yappy. He says, hey, if we're not expecting any pitcher to go 100 pitches, why don't we just go down to the bargain bin and play a cheap pitcher? If everybody's getting 60 or 70, does it make it more likely that these crappier or more unknown, unproven guys could get it done?
So what it means is points per dollar, the cheap pitchers will probably be better, but you don't really need the salary. Like, you almost can't even spend it if you have it. That's the reason. But I don't think there's anything at all wrong with playing Greinke and Ohtani on DraftKings, playing like Tyler McGill on FanDuel. Totally viable today. Because nobody's gonna break the slate with a pitching performance.
Yeah. Okay. We did get a couple of questions in. By the way, a reminder from everybody who usually hangs out with us in the NBA Crunch Time channel, jump over to the MLB Crunch Time channel. That's where I'm going to be answering these questions. If it's a tournament question, I'll give it to Ice. If it's cash, I'll give it to Cheese. That work for you guys?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. D-Dot says, and Cheese, I know that you play tournaments. I don't mean to, say you're only doing cash here.
And to be clear on something, since it's first, I don't even play cash. Like I think about things in terms of this is the best play, but I actually don't play cash, and I don't really have an opinion on who should play in cash because I don't do it.
Okay.
But I'm fine to take those questions.
Maybe we'll just alternate. How about that? We'll just alternate. D-Dot says FanDuel single entry. What are your thoughts on Tyler McGill? Keith, Ice?
I'm very worried about the leash. Not a guy who was projected to start opening day. Scherzer got scratched. And I'm not even sure. He might've been their 5th starter, but I don't believe he was even projected to make their rotation. So I would be like, we're concerned about everybody's pitch count, but he might literally throw 40 or 50 pitches.
Okay. Let's see. Cheese. He says, you want LeBron or Luka? I mean, sorry, who is your favorite stud in this MLB slate in a FanDuel GPP?
I would say Trout. Like Machado is kind of the answer, but Machado will definitely be the most popular. I mean, they'll both be popular, but I would say Trout.
Okay, I love this question. Cheese, I'm going to give this to you because I think this is something that you know of. Are there any early season bullpen rankings? And he says, I know it's early. Is it too early for that?
Not really. So let me give you 2 answers. Like on Plate IQ, where we have the bullpen premium leaderboards, like the stats are there, the same as they always are. So yes, it's there. And also on Fangraphs, if you just search for it, they just have their ranked 1 through 30 best to worst bullpens. So you could just kind of use that as a list until we get more data for this season, and at which point you switch to our leaderboard on Plate IQ.
Okay, great. Achilles says FanDuel cash. Ice, I'm giving this to you because now we're just alternating. Who is your favorite salary saver outside of Voit? Nola, DeYoung, Wong? P.S. I'm probably going to play Myers.
I like Myers a lot. On FanDuel, it's Wong though.
Okay, great. Mlb Dfs says FanDuel cash, last piece, Rosario or Reyes?
I like Reyes.
Okay, it's occurring to me that now I'm going to get hit with so many new names that I'm not used to early in the season. Just going to butcher so many names.
We're here for it.
Yeah, thanks. We actually have caught up on all the questions. As a few more come in, we'll get to them. Duff just said FanDuel cash, last piece, McCutchen or Varsho? Ice?
I will go Varsho there.
All right.
Assuming he leads off. I mean, that's
the tough part.
Thing.
We're not going to have that lineup.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, that's what you were just going to say. Like
yes, exactly what I was going to say.
FanDuel cash, Wong Lindor or Albies DeYoung? Cheese?
I would go Wong Lindor.
Jay Sams, Will Myers or Luke Voit? This is FanDuel single entry in the util. Should I differentiate with Myers or play? This is Machado is in the lineup if that means anything.
Yeah, I'll take the ownership discount on Myers there. I love that pivot.
Okay, great. Anything drastically different about DK that you want to address here? I know we don't, Lock is not coming up, but Cheese, anything you want to just touch upon?
Yeah, so in general, yeah, it's a pretty different build because the way DraftKings does their pricing, and basically the pitcher pricing is tougher on FanDuel, but the hitter pricing is tougher on DraftKings. Like they've got a much bigger gap between the good hitters and the bad hitters. So you can't quite just play anyone you want. And that is going to make the cheap pitchers a little more interesting on DraftKings. So basically Zach Greinke changes things on DraftKings. Like you have to consider the cheap pitcher on opening day, who again, if nobody's going more than 5 innings, just take the 5 innings from Zach Greinke. Like it doesn't matter. Because then you can stack an expensive team and play Mike Trout. If you go like Greinke Ohtani, for example, you can do whatever you want. But even with that being said, the expensive pitchers, air quotes expensive, are not actually expensive because there's no aces. So I would still call Wainwright my favorite pitcher. He's the only guy left tagged after removing the Bieber tag. I still think it's totally fine to play Bieber on DraftKings because he was so far underpriced that like I think he's priced correctly now for 70 pitches. So I think he's still fine. But yeah, you got to bring Greinke. Maybe you throw like I can see doing a little Bumgarner in large field tournaments, just because everyone who's playing that cheap is going to play Greinke. I mean, they're both old dudes who don't strike anyone out anymore. And just because Bumgarner's facing the Padres, there's no rule that the Padres have to have a good day today either. So I'm okay with mostly Greinke, but throw in a little Bumgarner if you want.
Okay. We do have a couple more questions, but Ice, do you want to give any thoughts there on DK pitchers before we get to these QQs and hit that FanDuel lock?
The Bieber price is tougher to fade on DraftKings, and Ohtani's price is drastically different on DraftKings. Also, there is no Corbin Burns, so I'm targeting Ohtani's strikeout upside much more on DraftKings. If everybody's throwing 5 innings, I'm looking for the guy who can give me multiple strikeouts an inning. And Ohtani is that guy for me on DraftKings, where the price is much better.
The issue with Ohtani has been historically he doesn't go that deep, right? And now no one's going that deep, so give me Ohtani. I'm with it.
Yeah. I mean, he is clearly too cheap on DraftKings. And this goes back to me saying the pitcher pricing is simply sharper on FanDuel. It has been for 2 years now. Like people still think of it as DraftKings is sharper pricing. It's not true at all on pitching.
Yeah. Okay.
Just not.
All right. A couple more questions here. Alex says FanDuel single entry. My other team is the Mets. So he's kind of got a double stack going. FanDuel single entry, Mets and Guardians, Braves, or Brewers. Cheese.
I would go Braves.
Okay. Mike, FanDuel GPP. Guys, shortstop's kind of ugly other than Lindor. Any other favorites at that position? Ice?
I think DeYoung would be the guy I recommend. He did grab the 6th spot in the order. I think he was originally projected for 8th. So I do like DeYoung at 2,100.
Okay, great. Jay Sam's FanDuel single entry. Is Sterling Marte viable in a Mets stack to differentiate your stack? Cheese?
Yes, he's one of those guys that like he's so good at baseball. Like he's better in real life than DFS, but I mean, he's a superstar hitter who's not even going to be played in his own team's stacks. So yes, you should definitely do it. Yeah.
Okay. Yappy says, hey, over on DK, I'm terrible at MLB. I feel you on that one, Yappy. But I just made a lineup with 4 Mets, 2 Braves, and Machado. Am I doing something right?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that sounds like what you're supposed to do. Jay Sam says, hey, Cheese, I know it's early, but are there any notable any notable bullpens that are terrible this year that we should know of, like the Orioles were last year, et cetera?
I mean, it's pretty similar to what it was last year. As far as opening day, I would say Arizona is the worst, which just plays more into that. The Padres are the popular stack and Machado is the popular play. That's part of why. That's the only one that's like jumping out at me today is, oh my goodness, this is a bad bullpen.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. We are 1 minute or so until FanDuel lock. We have caught up on the questions. Now would be a good time to add, if you sign up for Rotogrinders Premium, you get 10 months off your first 2 months of premium, whether you do single sport or combo sport. So sign up for some RG Premium because we got all kinds of cool tools. The best tools in the biz. Awkwardly waiting 30 seconds for lock.
Yeah, I'm just still awkwardly thinking about, am I supposed to do anything with this Bieber information / non-information? It's so weird when this stuff comes out like that. Like, we don't know anything today. And
Right.
and I'm not even sure that helps tell us anything.
Yeah.
I really
just
not.
Don't trust it. I don't trust the information.
But it tells us enough that, yeah, I'm going to change a little bit.
I don't know.
But what are you going to do with it? Play Zach Greinke? I mean, sure, that's fine. He's fine.
I don't know how we're not just all playing Ohtani. I don't understand how we're not just all like we're locking.
Well,
Ohtani.
that's the thing. Like, he moved up a lot. So originally this slate was totally different because we had Robbie Ray on and everyone was going to play Ray. As soon as we lost Ray, Ohtani's ownership went up. And for me, he went up. talking on this Bieber thing, I'm going to move most of my Bieber that I want to get rid of to Wainwright and Ohtani. Like, he's just going to keep climbing up. He is the most magical human that currently exists. Like, he just is.
I love him so much. I love him so much. I love everything he does. I love when he throws it. I love when he hits it. I love it all. God, he's great.
Yeah.
Hey, Achilles says, Cheese, how scared would you be full fading Alonso?
Oh, it's totally fine. I mean, if you're doing 150, I wouldn't full fade him, but yeah, first base has plenty of power. You don't have to play him.
Okay. All right. We've hit the lock here. We've hit the FanDuel lock. We talked about DK pitchers. Is there anything hitter-wise that you want to go over here on DK?
So I guess we should mention, like, because of the way their hitter pricing is, the value bats are a little more important. It's still not crucial today because there's no ace pitcher. There's no 12K pitcher. It's not even a 10K pitcher. But it's a little more interesting to talk, like a guy like Dan Vogelbach, which he's leading off today. I don't think anybody saw that coming. He's viable as at his price on DraftKings. You can play someone like him. There's players all over the place that fit well in stacks that are just cheap. Like Keith mentioned Bobby Witt on FanDuel. Like, Bobby Witt is cheap. Jeremy Pena, rookie for the Astros, is super cheap. There's no shortage of like $2,000 to $2,500 guys if you need them, but you don't really, even if you're playing an expensive stack, you don't need more than one or two of those guys because there's just nothing that pricey today. I don't know if that even answers your question. Is there anything to talk about? Sort of. It's the same guys. It's Soto, Trout, Machado, Alonso, Alvarez, Luke Voigt as the main popular cheap guy. But feel free to mess around with these. If we sort points per dollar, some of these. Oh yeah, JD Davis. There's your Vogelbach and Christian Walker at first. Your Bobby Witt, your Jeremy Pena. They're sitting there if you need them.
Okay. Ice, anything you want to add over on DK bats that you feel worthy of bringing up?
I was trying to come up with something while Cheese was talking, but I think he covered everything pretty well. Nothing else major standing out.
All right. A couple questions and then we'll get on out of here. We'll call it a job well done on our first show. At least like mediocrely done. Yeah.
A job done.
Yeah. Right. Yappy says, hey, just a general question. I live in Arlington, 10 minutes from the Rangers ballpark. Are the Rangers going to be better this year? I just wanted your thoughts, Cheese.
No, honestly, no. Like, they got some interesting players. Like, they should be a little more fun to watch, at least offensively. Like, I mean, just getting Corey Seager alone is fantastic, but no, that is not a good team.
Yeah,
the pitching is still a problem.
Yeah, it's so bad. Yeah, so no, I mean, yeah, go to some games, but not because you think they're going to be great.
Right. Okay. Jay Sam says, Cheese, in your article, you said you were focusing on players from 3 to 3,500, 3K to 3,500. Are you doing that mostly with Wainwright at pitcher on FanDuel? Yeah.
So unless you're playing Burns or Bieber, like, you just don't need any of the cheap bats on FanDuel. Like, if you put Wainwright in there or someone cheaper, you don't need any of those $2,500 guys.
Yeah. All right. Mohawk says, what is the Beaver news you mentioned? I don't see it anywhere and I tuned in late. You want to go over it briefly?
So
please?
There's an article that no one had seen until like Cardi posted it like 20 minutes ago, that the last sentence of the big long article said Beavers could be limited to 60 to 70 pitches. Which, if that's true, he's definitely not getting a quality start, maybe not even enough for a win. I'm not totally sure that that's, a fact. But I'm downgrading Bieber. I took him off of my core playlist. I'm going to play a little bit more Wainwright and Ohtani on DK in his place.
Okay. There you have it. With that concludes our first of many. Oh God, so many MLB crunch times that we will be doing. Hopefully weather works out today. I think it will. And this is your spot. This is free now every day going forward. This is your spot for the very latest, all the way up to lock and through lock If you want information on the best plays, the breaking news, and the weather, this is the spot to do it. Come hang out. Sign up for Rotogrinders Premium, because then you can drop your questions in the Discord. And if you have a 1v1, a 2v2, a 3v3, a question about weather, whatever it is, you can drop it in the Discord and we will answer it at the end of the show. With that, I think it is time to get on out of here, concluding our first show. For Ice, for Cheese, and for Devin, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.